Vinland Saga Season 2 has been announced for January 9th, and we have to give you a recap of what happened in Season 1. After all, it's been so long since the first season.
This is going to be full of spoilers, like Season 1 spoilers all the way to the end of Season 1. So if you're not looking for spoilers, click off. But if you're looking for a recap or you just want to watch this and jump into Season 2, this is it for you. Season 1 began with Thorfinn's father, the MC's father. And Thor's was this figure that was a warrior. Like, he was an amazing warrior. We saw his fights in the beginning. That was the first scene in the show where he was still the commander of the Vikings. Later on, we came to know that this man was called the Troll of Yom no Troll. And Thor's really stood up to his myth. Like, his mythology that surrounded him, he really stood up to that and more. We saw the first glimpse of who he is when Floki came to the village and he was trying to recruit Thor back to the army because the leader of the Vikings wanted Thor's back for the new war that they were going to have. But Floki had jealousy for that. He did not want Thor's to come back and essentially continue his rank as being the captain of the Vikings. So he had a plot in play. He went to what could be described as pirates, essentially, Vikings. He went to Askeladd and his crew and he hired them to take down Thor's. So Thor's was supposed to go through a certain path, and ultimately that's where he met his end. And it was not due to his lack of strength or anything, it was because of his strength. He sacrificed himself so that the rest of the crew would survive. And he had this ideology of being a true warrior being someone that could fight without needing swords or weapons. And he felt like he did not get to that level, but he aspired to that, and he tried to pass that message on to his son, Thorfinn. And this is where Thorfinn's story truly begins to take off. After the death of his father, he had to grow up quickly, but he had a rage that was all-consuming essentially, and he stowed away on the boat. Originally he stowed away on Thor's boat, but he stowed away on the second boat with Askeladd. But Askeladd allowed him to just essentially starve, but he wanted to kill Askeladd. That was what was his driving force. He followed them to a new village, he learned how to hunt, he learned all these things. He joined Askeladd's crew because of his crusade to eventually kill Askeladd in a duel. He wanted to enact a revenge for his father, and that was his driving force for essentially the whole of Season 1. And Askeladd definitely took advantage of this because he knew he could. That was the motivation thing for Thorfinn. It was not money, it was not anything, it was specifically a duel challenge. That's what he wanted. And he gave him that. So sometimes he gave him the mission to go fight some people or kill some people, or be a scouter for him in exchange for a duel. Did this a couple of times until he met Thorkel. Thorkel, which at that point he didn't know Thorkel was his uncle, because Thorkel was his grand uncle, because Thorkel was his mother's uncle. He fought Thorkel, and that's one of the greatest fights in the series. I love his fights with Thorkel, and Thorkel also relished these fights because there's not a lot of people that can challenge someone of the stature of Thorkel. Thorkel was part of the Wales army when we first met him. He was a hired sword, and he was fighting against the Vikings, even though he was a Viking. That provided an interesting conundrum to us, but like for him, it was just a challenge, and he just wanted something to allow him to be who he is, essentially. And in that same place, we met Canute, who is the Prince of Denmark. Canute was this soft-mannered prince where he was sheltered. He did not really have any fighting experience or anything. A lot of people even thought he was not a prince, but a princess. But after the death of his retainer, that forced a change within him, and he became the Canute that we saw at the end of the story, where he had both Thorkel and Askeladd under him. Canute went back with the aim of being the new king, but to be king, you have to dethrone a king. So that led to his fight with his father, but his father knew this was a plot essentially to take him down. And he was no stranger to kin killing kin, essentially, because he was the one that essentially killed his father. He took down his father to be king. It was not an amicable thing, and he told that straight point blank to Canute. He invited Canute to a meeting that they had where Canute had Thorfinn, Thorkel, and the squad. Like, they came there, and the king knew part of his retainer, Askeladd, had ties with Wales, and he kept on going. He would take down Wales until he gave Askeladd the choice: betray your principle, essentially, or what, Canute, or I take down Wales. Askeladd chose neither of the two. given Canute the crown, but at the same time sacrificing his life for that. Throughout the series, we always thought Thorfinn was going to be the one to kill Askeladd because he had so much history with him. And to me, that encapsulated it perfectly, because at that point, Askeladd was kind of like a father figure to Thorfinn, even though it was not stated, but it was kind of like that because he raised Thorfinn. There was a lot of history that they've had, although it was not sunshine and rainbows. They were antagonistic towards each other. They were trying to kill each other, but still there's a father figure there in Askeladd. To give you something to look forward to in season 2, season 2 is going to be very different from season 1. The tone is going to be different. The action that you used to, especially in the beginning, the first half, is going to be very different, like more plot intensive. But anyway, this has been a short video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know who your favorite character is in Vinland Saga. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Thumbs out.